and welcome to another episode of ProperTea with Rosie. That's obviously me. And today we have Alex Evagora joining us, which I'm very excited about. Welcome, Alex.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. Alex, DDRE superstar. Can you tell everybody before we start a little bit about what you do at DDRE, what your role is, and yeah, a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I'm a super prime advisor at DDRE Global. I tend to deal with properties over £5 million for sale or £5,000 per week for rental. One of the few agents like yourself who does both sales and rentals. And I've been with the business for almost 4 years now, coming up to 4 years since before day one.
Before day one, I like it.
Before we were even DDRE Global, before we were even Daniel Dagger's real estate. And it's been quite the journey. Yeah.
Okay, I want to dive a little bit more into that journey, but what were you doing before DDRE? So before DDRE was even a thing, what's your, I guess, career path been and experience in the industry so far prior to joining DDRE?
Wow, okay.
Going back a long time.
Making me feel really old now.
Yeah, if you can remember it.
Okay, wow, okay, not that old. So let's go back to the beginning. I came from a finance background, if you can say that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I was a junior stockbroker for about a year.
You learn something new every day.
Well, you never even asked me, so.
I know, I feel really bad now. Okay, this is why we're sitting here. I'm going to learn everything.
So I did that for a year, absolutely hated it, although I tried to force myself to like it and to be good at it. Then I worked at a wealth management financial advisory sort of company in Whetstone, North London, near to where I grew up. And I actually got sacked. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It was one of the best things that ever happened to me.
Yeah.
So I guess you could say congratulations. I was the PA to the director.
Did you do something that was particularly bad, or were you just not very good at the job?
Loads of things. It's just, I mean, you've known me for what, almost a year now. Mm-hmm. So I'm not very administrative, but I've learned to stick to what I'm good at. And luckily, we have Claudia, our assistant, who's a lifesaver for me. I don't know about you. I'm sure it's
truly
the same. And I just got sacked just before I ended my probation period. And you could say, kind of fell into real estate. I always wanted to end up in real estate, but as an investor. Mm-hmm. I wanted to make my money from broking.
Okay.
Or from finance. And I essentially applied for a sales role at an estate agency in Camden, mm-hmm. who's now called ProperTea. And I thought I'd apply my telephone sales skills to a face-to-face sales role, mm-hmm. backed by an asset which I believe in, which is real estate rather than stocks and shares and commodities. So I started in 2014, May 2014, for now ProperTea. Back then they were called Edmund Cuden Booth, incorporating bushels.
That is a mouthful of a name.
It is. It was. And here we are. After that, I realised very quickly that the best agents worked in central London. So I thought to myself, I have to get myself into central London as soon as possible. Mm-hmm. I think I watched a show on BBC Three or iPlayer called Sold, Under Offer, something like that. Mm-hmm. And Gary Hersham was on it.
Was this like pre-Selling Sunset, the early days of reality TV?
Pre. This is in 2014. And I don't think you could even watch that show anymore. I've tried to find it. But when I got the interview, I was like, okay, shit, now I've got to try and learn everything I can about estate agency before I start, before I go for an interview. So I Googled everything about estate agency, read everything I could, watched everything I could, because I thought I cannot get sacked again. If I get sacked, my dad will kill me, literally. Old-fashioned North London Greek man. So I learned everything I could, watched this show. Gary Hersham inspired me. And I thought, I have to get into central London very quickly. So after 18 months of being at ProperTea, working in Camden, which I learned, very quickly, and I cut my teeth there, I went and worked for another company called Sanford's in mm-hmm. Marylebone and Regent's Park. Then I moved to CBRE, who's one of the biggest property companies in the whole world, but more so for commercial. I was in the residential department, broke a few records. I broke the pound per square foot record in Covent Garden.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Long time ago now. Pound per square foot record in a building called Rathbone Square.
Yeah, amazing.
First agent to let something in Centrepoint, if you know Centrepoint.
I do,
Tottenham Court Road.
yeah.
Yeah. And
Lots of records.
Yeah, I was letting blocks of apartments. I broke an internal record for the most amount of money ever billed, we called it, internally. I'm not sure if that's been broken to this day. And then I went to another company where I was head of lettings, and then they shut down after 3 months of me being there.
Does that say anything about your track record?
Yeah, well, I got them off the ground, I would say, very quickly and pretty well. But unfortunately, they brought me in too late to save the day. And then I started my own business, which I ran for 8 months. And then I joined Daniel after 8 months of having my own business. And here we are.
Here we are today.
Sorry, long story, but you asked for it.
I did ask for it, and it's a really interesting story, and I think it's a nice story because it's a story, I mean, what I take from it is kind of a bit of the fact that you have to be resilient. I can see that you're very resilient, and you have to keep going, and sometimes there are setbacks, but actually that's what creates the path for us to do great things, and you might not realize it in the moment, but looking back, I don't know, you must feel really proud of the journey, and like, even though you tried lots of different things and you worked in different companies, each one I'm sure has contributed in some way to where you are today, and like has been a learning curve or a learning opportunity.
I know it sounds cheesy and you might have heard this before, but I really do stand by the saying, life happens for you and not to you.
Ooh.
Yeah.
You're going to say life happens for a reason, which is what things happen for a reason.
Yeah, it's kind of along the same lines. It really does happen for you and not to you. There was a reason why I got sacked from finance, and there was a reason why that company shut down. I probably would have had the minerals to start my own business unless I got made redundant and that company shut down. Then I was forced to.
It's interesting actually because during COVID, I feel like a lot of people sort of became entrepreneurs overnight. And I wouldn't say that necessarily everybody is cut out for it. It is a difficult position to be in. Obviously being made redundant, but deciding to be an entrepreneur. And I think if you have that kind of entrepreneurial spirit, it tends to come out in those moments of hardship where maybe it seems like there aren't that many options, but actually the path is you have to create your own path and you create your own kind of fortune or future, however you want to look at it. So I feel like that's what you've done. And you've got exciting things coming in the future, which we're going to touch on. But I feel like now is a nice moment to ask you, I would normally ask this at the end, but I feel like now is the right moment. So if you were talking to young Alex Evagora, like 20, 22 years old, you're a bit older than that now, right?
Yeah, just a bit.
I feel like from that career history.
23.
No, if you're speaking to like a younger version of yourself, or it could be somebody who wants to get to where you are now and looks up to you and says, my God, he's doing so well. How can I get to that place in my career? What would be your advice?
This is a really hard one because, again, if I didn't go out and spend a lot of money in Nobu, which used to be on Berkeley Street, get really drunk and then meet random people, would I be here? I don't know. Like, has my success come from those nights and associated myself with that ilk?
An elk is like a big deer.
Ilk.
So I don't know if there was a big deer
I think
on
elk's
Berkeley
from Lord
Street.
of the Rings, which I watched on the plane, so like from Dubai. So I was about to say to you, what I would say to my younger self is, don't go out, don't spunk your money, don't get drunk, don't do drugs, X, Y, Z. However,
all very good advice, I think.
And that would speed up the process to getting to where I am today. Maybe I would be here 3 years ago instead of today. However, again, maybe that experience has made me who I am today. And if I stayed at home instead of going out and mingling and mixing with these people in these expensive places where I did spend a lot of money and get into a bit of credit card debt, would I be here? I don't know. Yeah,
that's such a difficult one because it's not something you'd ever advise to people, I think, when you're talking about like almost living beyond your means to an extent.
I did, yeah. So maybe I'll rephrase it. Do go out to those places. Do not go out to expensive places. Just don't get in credit card debt, I would say.
Okay.
Because that put me in a really bad spot. And it put me in a position where I could probably admit, I could have been better at my job if I wasn't in that credit card debt, because that makes you a bad advisor, which is what we are, or what we profess to be. instead of estate agents.
Do you think that's because you're coming from a place where this is really interesting actually, because I've had this conversation recently where, if you're advising somebody on a deal, obviously as advisors we are paid on a commission basis. In most instances, sometimes we might be retained by a client and it's a slightly different setup. But if you are, you've got skin in the game, so to speak, you have an interest in advising your client and giving them the best advice possible, but also in the deal going through, because that's how you get paid. So maybe in those circumstances, would you say like you're coming from a different angle or a different perspective and you're therefore not able to give the best possible advice?
Yeah.
Or
I think as an advisor or a fiduciary in anything, even if you're a wealth manager or a banker or advising someone on what car to buy, anything, you should never come from a place of needing that deal, or needing that sale, or needing the commission or the referral fee. If you do, then you're conflicting. You're conflicted. How can someone trust you if you need that sale? That's how I would think if any salesperson was speaking to me about buying something.
Yeah.
If you need that commission to survive, you're not going to advise that client correctly.
You're going to say what it takes to get the deal across the line.
Yeah.
No,
and
I
now
think that's a fair point.
really pride myself on being in a good place. Touch wood. I consider myself very lucky to have gotten where I am. I've got a good mentor, Daniel.
I thought you were going to say me for a second. I was like, oh, already?
You haven't told me anything yet.
I'm just kidding. Just wait, you'll learn.
So, yeah, I would like to say that now I'm in a place where, without sounding like an arrogant douchebag, I'm in a place where I don't need a sale or a listing or a rental or I don't need the deal. It would be great if I had the deal, but I don't need it to survive. And now I can advise my clients properly and say, you know what, commission would be great, but don't buy that. They'll end up trusting you even more. If you tell someone, I don't think you should buy that, it won't be a good buy, and they know you'd make a good commission out of it, but you've still said that, they'll work with you forever.
Yeah.
And it's all about trusting and respecting.
Long-term relationships as well, like building those relationships, because it's one of those things you think, okay, somebody's buying a house, for example, and then you just think about that one sale because maybe they won't move for 10 or 20 years, but you actually miss the bigger picture, which is that maybe they're going to need to buy somewhere for their children, or maybe for their sister or family, or they have a good friend who's also looking. You build that relationship on a foundation of trust, and if they can't trust you because they feel like you've pushed them into buying something,
exactly,
it should never be that way.
That's called being transactional, but we are relationship focused.
Yeah, okay. And I find it so interesting. So how was that journey for you? Because I didn't know that you had credit card debt or had gone through that journey. So other than obviously, finding yourself maybe in the right places, meeting interesting people, and obviously being really hardworking. Because I think on the point of giving advice to young people, I'd say like whatever you're doing, as long as you kind of have goals in mind and set yourself goals and are constantly working towards them, yeah, of course you might want to go out on the weekend with your friends, or you might want to go to nice places and like live it up from time to time. But how did you get out of that, and how did you kind of put it into something that was productive and obviously get to where you are now?
So it really affected me mentally, and it's even affected me today. So I got into it, if we start with that, just by being a bit silly, showing off. It literally came from going out, expensive dates, just to show off to people who didn't even know me, wanting to be seen on Instagram in expensive places, and then ordering the most expensive things on the menu and not caring, and racking up that credit card bill. And I was paying it off until I bought a property, my first property in West Hampstead. So I was 26 at the time, 2018 was it? 2018-ish. And I always had I put a lot of money into that property. It was all of my savings that I had saved up. And it was a very quiet period for rentals in Covent Garden, which is where I was working at the time at CBRE. It was a very seasonal market. And so my colleagues were obviously very clever and kept their savings for the quiet periods, Christmas and January and February.
And I
which
think,
were
by the
dire.
way, you only learn that from going through. There's never a sort of flat, easy, smooth
No.
ride, especially in this industry. So you have to be prepared for when those quiet times come. But unless you have a really good mentor or someone who's going to give you that guidance, how would you know that until you've
No one will
been
teach you
through
that.
it? Yeah.
Unless they really love you and don't want you to go through that. No
Yeah.
one will teach you that. In fact, I think my managers, or who I thought were my mentors at the time, I think a part of them wanted me to go through that, to keep me there, to keep me hungry and working hard for them and making them money. Anyway, I got myself into that sticky situation, and I got myself out when I joined Daniel. We closed a deal together in my first 3 weeks with him at DDRE, or what is now DDRE Global, and that paid off the debt in one deal.
So it shows you
it was
also how
life-changing.
your fortune can change, yeah.
Yeah,
If you keep going, you had to keep working,
And
I presume, to get to that point.
like I say, it happens to you, life, not for you. That happened for a massive reason. It was a huge lesson, massive lesson, which has still affected me today. So I was in Koya a few nights ago in Dubai with Harriet, my fiancée, and she'll tell you, I almost had a panic attack because I felt like I was going back. Whenever I'm in these expensive places and we're ordering food, I start getting anxious. I have really bad anxiety. And I start thinking, oh my God, I've gone back into that old Alex.
Yeah, that lifestyle.
Yeah, so it's even affected me today. And that's the thing at the back of my head, which I think was my lesson. And I don't think I'll ever go back there because it's there.
Yeah, you have to experience it. I think a lot of people who follow us on social media, they're kind of, looking in from the outside. You might see us as super prime luxury real estate brokers, and we are working in a luxury industry with very wealthy clients. And so there is an element of, entertaining, going out, building those client relationships, networking and meeting those people and moving in those circles. But actually, it's something, when I was younger, I was a lot more nervous. I think I was probably doing the opposite of what you would do. So I would go out to those places to meet people, but I'd be like, tap water, no sparkling water. It was so British of me. I'd order like a starter, and that was, great also to keep slim. But that was truly like what I could afford at the time. And I think there's, I personally feel like Instagram and social media is so dangerous. And I saw such a funny video the other day, which is a whole separate topic. But it was a girl like making a joke about like how are all these girls affording designer bags when they're so expensive, they're literally thousands of pounds. And that's just a silly thing on the side. But I do feel like there's this outside world and this perspective of people who look in and they see just that superficial sort of top layer, which doesn't give the whole picture. And I think that, yes, we work in that industry, but there should be more transparency and more openness. So I'm really grateful that you've just said what you did. There should be more transparency around the fact that that is our client's lifestyle, not our lifestyle. And there's, we're all working hard. We have aspirations and goals, and we'd like to get to the point where we can happily go out and spend, hundreds on a meal. But there's a fine line to be tread.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Tread carefully.
Yeah, exactly. So it's quite interesting
Yeah.
to think about that. And also how that motivates you.
We're not just advisors. We're also dealing with, being self-employed, we're also dealing with our accountants. We've got to save for tax. We've got to make sure we can save for a rainy day or a rainy month, because it's not like this. We don't sell £20 million homes every single month.
Yeah.
You might sell 2 a year, and that's still very good. You'll be on easily 6 figures.
Yeah.
Or probably, well, not more, but yeah, 6 figures.
But so so I think that's the thing. People assume we're just selling like £20 million houses all the time. We kind of do a lot of different things. So that's part of it. And you mentioned earlier, you and I are probably two of the sort of handful of people from DDRE who also do lettings as well as sales, if that's fair.
I think there's 3 of us out of, how many agents are there now?
13.
Yeah.
Yeah,
13.
exactly. So how come, you mentioned your background is in lettings, and so how do you find kind of the differences, I guess, between working in lettings versus working in sales, and what the nuances are between the two?
So with lettings, there is a hell of a lot of legislation involved that you have to adhere to. You have to. And the risk is massive in comparison to the upside. So you have to make sure you get everything, you dot every I and cross every T. Have to make sure. I think you've heard me go on about this in the office.
Yeah.
You know, it can be as bad as actually going to jail if you don't, for instance, get a gas safety certificate. And then if something really bad happens, you can end up in jail. So that's how severe the punishment can be in this country with lettings, which is why a lot of agents don't choose to do it, which is fair enough. However, it can be incredibly rewarding because I did a whole talk on this, didn't I? I don't know if you were there, a knowledge share to the team. But there's a lot of positives to lettings which I really enjoy, like recurring income, cash flow. When you have your own business like you and I, or any agent at DDRE has, because we're all self-employed, it can be extremely helpful. If you were to start your own company and be at a brokerage like DDRE Global, and you only do sales, for instance, and focus on selling property, not letting property, it can take you 6 to 8 months to get your first commission check.
Yeah.
You have to get a listing, which means that can take you a month or two. You have to go live, you have to do the viewings, get the offer agreed, and then you have to go through the conveyancing process, exchange, and then complete. And that can take a long time. With lettings, you can... So when I started my own business, I got paid on my first deal, I think in my first 2 weeks of starting my own business.
Same here. Oh, not in my own business, but in my previous business.
I did a short-term rental in Mayfair, and then I was off. So...
Yeah, it's definitely more of a volume business in the sense that you'll do more deals per year, and the turnaround and the transaction kind of lead time is a lot quicker.
Yep.
But then, do you think that is true also in super prime property? And I guess one of the questions that I'm often asked is, like, if people are really wealthy, the clients you're dealing with, they're high net worth individuals, why would they not buy a property? Why would they still, like, do you have as many clients who are renting property in that?
Yeah, various reasons. One person said something which really resonated with me, and is really, it's actually made me have a lot of arguments with a lot of people. But he said to me, he was one of my tenants, he rented a big house from us in Holland Park, on one of the most expensive roads in London, you probably know it. I don't want to be too specific. He said to me, he doesn't want to buy because of stamp duty, which I think is about 15 million. That house is about 26 million pounds. If he bought it, his stamp duty would have been 15% of 26 million. And then it would take him years, plus luck, plus inflation, to get his money back. Just to get his money back. So he didn't, and he's making God knows how much money from his businesses. And he's doing phenomenally well as a businessman, as an entrepreneur. So he spent on rent, it was £16,000 per week, and he was there for about 14 months, and that was it, living in a £26 million house. I've got dyscalculia, so I can't tell you how much that is.
Dyscalculia.
Yeah, I have. So I can't tell you how much £16,000 a week.
I mean, it's basically like around approximately $1 million a year in rent,
yeah,
right?
I think just shy of that.
Just shy of $1 million a year.
Yeah, just shy of that. So,
which is, I mean, a huge astronomical number. But
so say he bought a property and lived in it for 14 months at that price, he would have actually lost money.
Yeah, yeah.
Plus the upkeep.
It is a difficult. I think that's probably a whole other podcast episode. Now I've opened a can of worms. But
I did an Excel spreadsheet on this.
Did you?
Maybe a podcast for another day. We can go into it and actually show it on a presentation.
I think that's called a YouTube video.
Yeah.
People need to see it.
Maybe we'll do a YouTube video one day.
Maybe
Rosie.
we should.
Can do a collab. But I did an Excel spreadsheet on it, and in some instances, renting does beat buying. Yeah. Especially with short term.
I think it depends on what your motivations are and just what your circumstances are. If you're buying a family home, which you want to make your own and you're going to be living there for the next 10 years, or you're looking for like a long-term investment property that you're going to hold and not sell for many, many years, that's where it does make sense. But if you are traveling a lot for work, if you are relocating, and you're only maybe going to be in the country for, as you said, like a year or two, then 100%.
Let me ask you a question. I know it's your podcast and you're the host.
Ooh.
However, baby boomers, our parents, the experience they experienced with real estate values from when they bought their first property to today, do you think we will experience that same trajectory, that same increase in value?
Personally, I don't. I think, I mean, I can think of several examples. And it's just crazy how much property value has increased in London. If you look at London specifically, I think is a good example. It's really hard to predict the future, but it's like, you used to look back and think like, oh, one day if I could be a millionaire, that's like amazing. And of course it still is, but now you have the same sort of similar ambitious people and they want to be billionaires, and big companies are now looking to make trillions rather than billions, and it's just everything with time. Obviously the inflation is very real. I don't think we're going to see the same growth as our parents' generation did, but
I agree.
Yeah.
And we've been not in a derogatory way, but we have been brainwashed, whether it be by our parents or the banks, but to one day end up with a mortgage.
Yeah.
And technically, do we really own the property? No.
Yeah.
Miss 3 of your mortgage payments and see who really owns the property. It's the bank.
Yeah, yeah.
So if you don't end up buying a property and you rent instead, there's absolutely nothing, I want to put it out there, there is nothing wrong with renting. Just make sure the money you would have used to buy the property, put that to good use.
I think that's really good advice. And I think there's a bit of a stigma in the UK in particular. It's like you are slightly brainwashed. You should be a homeowner. You should get on the ladder and like then, do your next deal. And there's definitely a misconception there. So I think
agree.
Financial education needs to be much better in this country in general. And that probably includes home ownership and investing in real estate.
We should do something on that.
Yeah. Oh, just had a great idea.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, so speaking of growth and the future, we don't have too much longer left, I don't think, sadly, although I could talk to you all day. And this is just such a comfortable place to be speaking. So first things first, where are we today?
Today we're in 20 Grosvenor Square in Mayfair.
Can you tell us a little bit about why we're in this, whose living room this is, why we're in this property?
I can't tell you whose living room it is.
Okay.
Exactly. However, it's one of our clients' living room. It's a 5,800 square foot triplex apartment, which they call the townhouse at 20 Grosvenor Square. We're in a south-facing living room, so you get very good sunlight, and it's facing the Grosvenor Square, a very famous square in central London, which is going to get even busier when the Rosewood Chancery opens up very shortly. This is the only apartment, I don't know if you know this, in the whole building that's a triplex. It's the only apartment in the whole building that has its own internal lift to all floors.
Wow.
And it's the only apartment in the whole building that has its own garage for 2 cars.
For 2 cars?
For 2 cars.
Wow.
I know it sounds funny for an apartment to have a garage. However, all the other apartments in the building have a parking space in the shared car park.
Underground parking.
Yeah. Whereas this, you drive onto the car lift at the side of the building, it takes you down 2 levels, and then you drive into the car park, and then your garage door opens, you drive in, door shuts behind you, and you very discreetly enter your flat without anybody seeing you in any hallway or any car park. So it's very cool.
And this property is currently on the market?
It's on the market for 22 million
Ooh.
pounds sterling, not dirhams. Yeah.
Good.
What else
Okay,
can I
great.
tell you?
No, I think I have to say it's not only super impressive as a property, and we see lots of really impressive properties, but it's also very comfortable.
It's one of the best buildings in all of London, I should add. It was developed by a company called Finn Chatton, who are known for their excellent quality in their work. It's also run by Four Seasons, so if you're a fan of Four Seasons or only like staying in Four Seasons hotels when you travel the world, this might well be the building for you. So please don't hesitate to reach out to Rosie if you would be interested in buying this property or know someone who might be interested.
Good plug.
And it has a swimming pool, cinema, 24-hour concierge,
Everything.
valet parking. I can go on.
Everything you would expect, I think, of
Everything
building
you'd
this quality
expect.
and more, and it's really, they do deliver on the service as well. So you mentioned dirhams, to move us on briefly.
Yes, dirham.
Dirham. I'm not going to try to even.
Dirham.
And the exciting news, which I think we can share, is that you are going to be spending a lot more time in Dubai.
Indeed,
Great.
I will be.
So will you tell us a little bit more about that decision and what that move is going to entail? Is it a full move? Are we losing you in London?
You are absolutely not losing me. Don't worry. Don't panic. I'm still here. I'll still be here. So I noticed a little trend since COVID, and that was that. Sorry, this is the thing on the podcast as well. So I noticed a trend since COVID, and that was that a lot of our clients are buying or looking to buy land, villas, or property in general in Dubai. That sparked my interest. We've done over £150 million sterling worth of deals in Dubai since COVID. I think Daniel spent a lot of time there, maybe 6 months or so in Dubai when we started this business. And I went out there in May this year, 2023, to do some research. Went for about 5 days in back-to-back meetings. I think I was green in the face by the time I was finished, when I should have been brown from tan. So it really has become another hub to people that are like our clients, the same ilk of our clients, ultra high net worths. And I mean real ultra high net worth, the ultra high net worth community. So people that are worth hundreds of millions or who are billionaires. They have started basing themselves out of Dubai, just like previously they were basing themselves out of London, New York, Gibraltar, Monaco, Jersey, Guernsey. It's another hub now for the ultra high net worth. So that's just fact. I noticed this trend. I went out there in May, did my research. A lot of our clients have moved there, and there is a massive link between London and Dubai. It's incredibly safe. There's good tax incentives for our clients, and the market. People say it's a bubble. Prices are too high. They're going to come down. It's going to crash. I actually think it's corrected itself. I think it was too cheap before, and I think it's only going to do better from here. I really do.
And so you're looking to obviously expand your business in Dubai.
Sorry, I missed that point. Right, the most
No,
important thing.
I think it's interesting for people to understand why people are moving to Dubai and where that opportunity is being created. But yeah, so how are you going to kind of take advantage of that opportunity?
What happened was, during lockdown, so Dubai had a 12-week lockdown, strict lockdown, and then after that they opened their doors. When the rest of the world were in lockdown, they opened up their doors. I don't know whether that was safe or not. I can't tell you, I'm not a doctor. I don't know what the results were. However, a lot of people, what I do know is a lot of people went there and spent time there during that open door period. Daniel was there, he had to be, to facilitate these deals. Because our clients said, Daniel, we're here during lockdown. Whilst we're here, we might as well see some property. Typical thing that our clients would do. Wherever they are in the world on holiday, they'd do that. And then they'd say, you know what? I could actually live here. I've been here for a month now. It's safe. I could leave my phone on this table, go in the sea. I'll come back and it will still be there, because you get circa 15 years in prison just for stealing an iPhone. Whereas here you might get a slap on the wrist. And the crime is ridiculous here. So they would go and see property, realise it is cheap on a global scale, on a global perspective, and on a pound per square foot basis, and end up buying property. So that's what happened. That's how it came about. Fact, it's happened. So I'm going to be basing myself out of Dubai, and I'll be between Dubai and London. I'm very lucky that I have colleagues like you. We're already working on 2 things together.
Exactly.
A big house in Notting Hill, which we're looking to rent and or sell. And we're also working with a very ultra high net worth individual who's looking to rent and then buy. And we sold something to them last week, the same family last week, for over £15 million sterling. So I'm very lucky in that I have colleagues here in London like you, like Jess, like Benji, like Ollie, who I can team up with, and I can be in Dubai, you can do viewings with them, and we'd be in a WhatsApp group together, and I trust you guys implicitly. And that was my telltale. That was my... Don't play poker with me.
Don't trust us.
I don't have a flush.
But that's the global, I guess, in DDRE Global. That's how 100%. Our team operates, whether it's in Dubai or London or wherever else in the world. And I think that's such a nice thing for you to be able to go over there and build your book and kind of support clients on the ground in Dubai. And it's really exciting.
It is exciting, but I'm not going to be a toxic positive, what they call it? Toxic.
Oh, toxic positivity. I don't know.
I'm trying to be a positive realist.
Yeah.
I'm really trying to be a positive realist. Okay. So I'm trying to keep my head level, be careful with money. I know Dubai is a very dangerous place in terms of spending money, and let's see how it goes. So
Well, I'm
Let's see.
very excited for you.
Thank you.
And
Thank you,
good
Rosie.
luck. I'm sure you're going to smash it.
I hope so.
Okay, if we're just throwing sensibility out the window for one moment, if you do want to go out in Dubai and spend a bit of money, you've just got back from Dubai and you obviously know it very well. Where would you recommend people if they're thinking of going on holiday, or maybe they've just relocated there and they don't know the area very well, the city? What would be your top 3 places to explore or to go out?
That
and
is a
kind of
very
enjoy?
good question. And my fiance asked me the exact same question a few days ago, because we're thinking about where to live ourselves, right? And it really depends on what you like as a person. It's just like London. Are you a bit hip? You might like Shoreditch.
That just gives away that you are absolutely not that. Anyone who says hip sounds like a grandpa.
What do you call it? How do you describe people who like to live in Shoreditch?
I don't know, like edgy, a little bit like alternative.
That's it. Okay, that's a nice way of putting it. So you might like Shoreditch. If you are...
What's the Shoreditch of Dubai?
There's a media city, there's an internet city. So potentially that, but there isn't a very big edgy crowd there, I would say.
Okay.
People that are there are very entrepreneurial, very materialistic, not in a bad way. That's okay, each to their own. I can be a bit materialistic sometimes too, hence the credit card debt. So it really depends on what you like. It caters to everybody. There's sports city, media city, internet city. There's a place to live if you like polo. There's DIFC, which is the financial centre if you're into finance.
Money.
Yeah.
Something for everyone.
I think everyone there is into money in some sort of capacity. And then there's downtown near the Burj Khalifa and where the fountain show is, and Dubai Mall. And then there's Business Bay, where a lot of businesses space themselves out to. And then there's free zones, which is a whole other story. And then there's Palm Jumeirah, which is probably the most expensive on a £1 per square foot basis. Beautiful, probably one of the best places to live, I'd say, is Palm Jumeirah. You get your own private beach with your own villa on a road of security, which is called a frond, F-R-O-N-D, with a barrier. And you get a 10,000 square foot house for about £2,000 sterling per square foot, which is a Hamilton Terrace St John's Wood price. Yeah. So in London, that would get you a very vertical house, maybe with a lift, not very wide, with a small-ish garden.
It's a totally different lifestyle in Dubai.
Yeah, you don't get your own private beach.
And you have the sun and private beach. I mean, everything. Are you going to take up any new hobbies? Polo, perhaps?
Did I tell you that already?
No.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I'd like to. I've got to learn how to ride a horse first.
Yes, so that's a good starting
I have
point.
promised myself that I'm going to learn how to ride a horse. I used to do it when I was like 6 years old in Trent Park, Cockfosters. I've got pictures as a kid on a pony.
I can kind of see you as like a polo player.
As a jockey?
Yeah,
just
jockey.
Because I'm short.
No comment.
I'm joking. So I'd like to start horse riding lessons first, and then I might try polo, yeah.
Amazing. You're going to take the world by storm.
That's the plan. Let's see.
You can compete in Chesterton's polo in the park maybe when you come back.
Maybe.
Surprise everyone.
Maybe, yeah. Oh, could you imagine?
Amazing. Okay, so a few quick fire questions.
Sure.
Everybody who I've asked so far, on the podcast, off the podcast, just whatever. If you ask anybody at DDRE, who's the funniest person at DDRE, they say you. I don't know if that's surprising or not.
Okay.
You're not funny all the time, but you are definitely the funniest person by far.
Thank you. I think.
Who's the person at DDRE? I won't ask you who's the funniest because you'll have to say yourself. But who's the person at DDRE who you'd go for a pint at the pub with on like a Thursday after work? If you had to pick one person.
I'm trying not to drink so much these days, actually.
A green juice, perhaps.
Oh, green juice. After work, there's a few people. There's a few people. I really get on very well with Oliver Hamilton. I'll say he's one of the funniest people as well in business.
Oh, good. Okay, maybe I should have asked you.
We get on really well. I enjoy his company, but I enjoy a lot of people's company in the business. I wouldn't say I really have a favourite. Yeah. Okay,
Ollie Hamilton. Moving on.
Okay, sorry, yeah.
Penthouse or townhouse?
Penthouse.
Chateau or chalet?
chalet. I love skiing.
If you had to pick one place in the world to live that is not Dubai or London, where would you pick?
To live?
Yes.
New York, Manhattan.
Ooh, fun. Okay, and if you had to take one thing to a desert island, what would it be?
A sock.
Am I going to ask you why? You should probably have said your fiancée, although she's not a thing.
Women are not objects, Rosie.
Good save, good save. I teed you up for that one. Is there a reason you're taking a sock?
How long would I be on the island for?
Like indefinitely. You have to survive there.
Exactly.
What are you using a
so you
sock
put
for?
sand in the sock and you pee into the sock, and then you can drink your own pee, and you can survive for longer.
So it's a
You didn't know
filtration
that?
device.
It's a filtration device.
I didn't know that, but at
Obviously,
least
what
I
were
think
you
they have
thinking?
water filters in Dubai, so hopefully you'll be safe.
Well, you said desert island for like a month, so.
Okay, and last question. What is the last book you read or podcast your favourite podcast that you listen to?
Favourite podcast is The Three Entrepreneurs, if you've heard of it.
Do you listen to your own podcast?
I actually do, because I,
Good.
I have to have it edited. The second best, I would say, is Real AF by Andy Frisella. He talks very similarly to like how my dad talks. I was going to say used to talk to me, but he still does talk to me like this. Very Cypriot. Andy Frisella is Italian, so Mediterranean. Very shouty, like, you do this, you do that. And it just like, I don't know, I just prefer that instead of fluff. And
That's
rainbows and
definitely
colours.
like a European thing. I mean, I don't even think it's a Swiss thing, but growing up, whenever I went home to Switzerland, to my mum's side of the family, I was always so confused coming from England, and like everybody was shouting at each other, but they weren't having an argument. So I was like, what is going on?
Yeah, spend Christmas Day with me and my family, honestly. You would come out with the biggest headache. So second best is Real AF. What was your other question? You asked me something.
Well, the last book that you read.
I'm currently reading a book now by Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, who's the ruler of Dubai. And it's really interesting because he wrote it over 10 years ago. And it's called My Vision by him. And you get a real good insight into his plans for Dubai and into his thinking. And everything he wrote back then is coming to life now.
That's
really
fascinating. So you can see.
It is fascinating. I recommend it.
Okay, I'm gonna read it. I've started to get really into reading like biographies and autobiographies. I feel like you can learn so much from other people,
100%.
both like in the past and more recently as well.
Everyone should be reading.
Yeah.
Let me leave you with something that I read somewhere once. I can't remember who said this, but it said, if you do not read, you are exactly the same as someone who is illiterate.
Wow. Yeah. Fair enough.
And that's the only way you can get better.
And also now we do have audiobooks, and I feel like whichever way you're consuming that information, if you still make the effort to consume information and to learn and kind of think about it and digest what you're listening to or what you're reading, there's so much. It's kind of like you can have a conversation with anyone in history, you know, and it used to be that unless you were an industry leader or a politician or a billionaire, you wouldn't ever get the opportunity to learn from another politician or billionaire or industry leader. And actually now, and through books, we've always had that opportunity to learn from those people. And I think there's so much you can learn. So
if you do listen to an audiobook, I recommend listening to it on ×2, because the faster they speak, the more you listen.
Interesting.
Yeah, just give it a go for like 15 seconds.
If you
and
can
see how
understand
much
what
more
they're
you listen.
saying.
Yeah, because whilst you're driving, you're listening more intently. Oh my God, what's he saying? He's speaking really fast.
You have to pay attention.
And, yeah, you have to pay attention.
I like that trick.
Otherwise, your mind starts drifting if it's on ×1.
Okay, so go back to the beginning of this podcast and put us on ×2 and listen up. Oh, thank you so much, Alex. This has been really, really nice, and I could just talk to you all day. If people want to find you here or in Dubai, or they want to follow your journey, where can they find you?
I recommend my Instagram because I use it daily. So it's at @Alex_Evagora.
Great. Thank you so much, and good luck in Dubai.
Thank you. Thanks, Rosie.